In a competitive world, average won't cut it. The Success Launch Point shows you how to stand out, deliver massive value, and rise above the crowd. With on-demand courses, expert coaching, and a community focused on growth, you'll accelerate your career and your paycheck. It's time to level up. Check out modernobserver.com/launchpoint.
Trump hailed in the Middle East, government layoffs to deepen, JPMorgan to invest in U.S. security, and more. Welcome to the Raw Naked Truth. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin, and here's the news you need to know. President Trump was welcomed as a hero in Israel's parliament, the Knesset. In his speech to Israeli lawmakers, the fourth by a U.S. president, he heralded the historic dawn of a new Middle East before going off script to call for Israeli President Isaac Herzog to pardon Benjamin Netanyahu. Israel released nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners, while Hamas appeared to breach part of the ceasefire agreement by returning the bodies of only 4 dead hostages instead of the 28 they promised Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has nominated Trump for the Israel Prize, the country's highest cultural honor. I've submitted your nomination to be the first non-Israeli recipient of the Israel Prize, Netanyahu said Monday in an address to the Knesset. As to that other prize, it's just a question of time. You'll get it, he added, in a nod to Trump's quest for the Nobel Peace Prize. Trump flew from Israel to Sharm el-Sheikh, where he met with world leaders and inked a deal for peace. We have a once-in-a-lifetime chance to put the old feuds and bitter hatreds behind us, Trump said. Vice President Vance warned on Sunday that cuts to the federal workforce will only get deeper as the government shutdown drags on. The longer it goes on, the more significant they're going to be, Vance said. If you remember, we went 9 days before announcing any significant layoffs. Again, the President of the United States wanted to reopen the government. He was trying to work with Democrats in order to make that happen. But the longer this goes on, the deeper the cuts are going to be, he continued. Vance also said the cuts ahead are likely to be painful, but he blamed them on Democrats who say they won't agree to the GOP plan to reopen the government until they find a solution to the Enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidies, which are set to expire at the end of the year, causing insurance premiums to increase. President Trump is set to host Ukrainian President Zelensky in the White House on Friday. The visit comes shortly after President Trump announced that he is considering sending Tomahawk missiles to the Ukrainian army. We may not, but we may do it, Trump said Monday. I think it's appropriate to bring up. Yeah, I want to. I want to see the war settled. Nude protesters in Portland flocked to the streets Sunday for an quote-unquote emergency edition of the annual World Naked Bike Ride. The event typically takes place in the summer, but was quickly convened this weekend as a full-frontal rebuttal to President Trump's attempts to deploy the National Guard in the city. OpenAI and Broadcom inked a custom chip deal, the third such deal in recent weeks. The ChatGPT maker agreed with semiconductor giant Broadcom to jointly develop 10 gigawatts of custom AI chips starting next year. The arrangement follows similar ones OpenAI has made with Oracle, NVIDIA, and AMD to increase the computing capacity needed for its AI expansion. Broadcom, whose stock popped nearly 10% following news of the deal, has been one of the biggest winners of the AI boom, thanks to its custom chips called XPUs. JPMorgan Chase announced a new plan to invest $10 billion into U.S. companies deemed critical to national economic security. The move from the American bank comes amid rising trade tensions with China and marks the first stage of a planned $1.5 trillion investment in such companies over the next decade. That's the Raw Naked Truth. You can catch every episode of the Raw Naked Truth Daily News Brief, as well as our sister podcast, Carnivore Radio, with news analysis and commentary, and the rest of the Xvadio Podcast Network at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcast app, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech. We'll see you next time.